Goldbod, under my leadership, brought it down to 0.6%. Then in January of 2026, we brought it further down to 0.35%. And I have a letter signed by the governor of the central bank to that effect. January 2026, which a copy of which I will share with you. 2026, and it confirms that program costs have been reduced to 9 March this year. The domestic gold purchase program was brought to an end. I hear people say that now domestic gold purchase program has been transferred to Goldbod. That is not what we are doing. The domestic gold purchase program has ended. It was a Bank of Ghana program. It has ended. In March 2026, on the back of the GANRAP approved by Parliament, the Goldbod began to now fully implement its statutory mandate. And under this mandate, it is not paid any fee by the Bank of Ghana. So that is the history of fees. So when you hear that somebody is saying that the Bank of Ghana is making losses because of Goldbod fees, he doesn't understand what he's talking about. Because these are fees that are not free money, number one. And we are talking about a total of 0.75%. And so if what the IMF says is anything to go by, and I'm not in the position to respond to them because they have not said the Goldbod has made a loss, so I will not respond to them. They said the losses they are talking about is a loss made by Bank of Ghana, right? Now, it's for the Bank of Ghana to address that. Now, they claim that that loss is 17% of the value of gold the Bank of Ghana bought in 2025. Assuming that is true, how does a fee of 0.758% reduce to 0.6 and further to 0.35 responsible for that? And when that fee predates the Goldbod, and when that fee at all material times is known as part of cost, then that can never be an issue of losses, because in the trading of a commodity, profit is a function of selling price minus cost price. So if you know that I'm buying commodity X at 10 cedis and my fee is 0.6% or 0.75%, that is part of your cost. You ensure that you sell the commodity above that so that you make profit. That fee, which is approved by Parliament, not introduced by Sammy Gyamfi and the Goldbod, that fee of 0.5 negotiated by the XY regime cannot be the reason for any losses. And it is important that we set that record straight. Now, on the issue of financing.
No,
yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I wanted to I wanted to maybe touch base a little bit, or like maybe expand a little bit on the fees, right? And I'm wondering if some of this confusion, right, was because it wasn't clear from the beginning that 2025 was basically a transition year for the Goldbod, right? And it was basically taking over the original arrangement. I think a lot of the explanation were after the fact, right? That, oh, we are taking over the original arrangement because we are still setting up and all of that, right? Because I think when I read the Goldbod Act, right, I see that Goldbod is doing everything from end to end, right? And so not necessarily being a service provider for the Bank of Ghana. It makes sense that in 2025 being setting up, it was a transition. But do you feel that it was maybe that communication wasn't clear from the beginning, right? So that
it was very clear. It was very clear. You see, if you don't have information, I always maintain that the right thing to do is to ask. I have gotten a lot of RTIs and I've responded to all RTIs. Suleiman Abrahima will tell you a lot of these institutes and CSOs, I make sure that we always do that. And our act is perhaps one of the most stringent when it comes to transparency. And I think you, Alfred, you even make that point. And so we publish almost everything. Sometimes I come under accusations that I am overly transparent. I'm publishing too many things, and it ends up being, spinned and misconstrued and, manipulated against us for mischief purposes. So I don't think that was a problem because, Alfred, I was appointed as acting managing director of PMMC on 22nd January 2025. I went there with the main objective given to me by His Excellency the President to go and see to the establishment of the Goldbod. Okay, you cannot establish an agency in one day. And we, with the help of stakeholders and Parliament, were able to get the Goldbod Act passed in record time on the 29th of March 2025. By the 2nd of April, the President assented it. So now, Goldbod came into being. But when you have formed a new organization and given it this huge mandate of being the sole buyer of gold in Ghana, the national assayer, the sole exporter, the one that must promote and ensure value addition, that is the one that must fight smuggling, the one that must deploy a task force at entry and exit points to make sure that we control smuggling, the one that must promote land reclamation and sustainability initiatives, ensure traceability, value chains. You need a whole new organization. Workers, logistics, and everything. You cannot establish that organization overnight. Okay, so we needed time. My minister always says, I mean, you need to walk before you crawl and before you run. So let's get the basics right. So after 2nd of April, we occupied ourselves with putting in place the necessary institutional, measures to make sure that we have Goldbod. So what were we supposed to do during that transition period? The government said, because under the Goldbod Act, Parliament provided for transitional provisions under Section 78, and it reads, the rights, and I'm reading 78.1, Goldbod Act, the rights, assets, and liabilities that have accrued in respect of the properties vested in the Precious Minerals Marketing Company in existence immediately before the coming into force of this act are transferred to the Goldbod established under this act. So all the obligations and the rights Goldbod had under the September 2023 gold purchase agreement and Bank of Ghana, where the PMMC was a buying agent, Goldbod took over. So Goldbod
Austin, I think we lost Sammy a little bit there.
Yeah. Hello, Sammy. I don't know. He's having network connection. But okay, Sammy.
All right, Sammy, we lost you there briefly.
Can I go? I'm going to the financing now. So I said, when we talk about financing of Goldbod, we are talking about two things.
I have on that. So let me finish with what we get. My question on the fees. You see, Sammy, it was passed in 2020 to 2023, agreed. But the 0.5 you're talking about, right? There's a reason in October they took a decision as Goldbod and Bank of Ghana to view downwards that service charge. Also, there's a reason you say the large companies are not paying percentage terms, but they are paying absolute fee of $90. From 2023 till October, start of 2025, there was a 44% jump in the price of gold. Don't you think that because we also racked up about 150% what we were buying previously, then under the PMMC that you inherited for 2025, I think 140 tons, when previously we had done 50 something.
104.
104, when previously we had done what? Less
63. 63.
What you did, something would have culminated in taking that decision. I mean, Goldbod with Bank of Ghana to review downwards. We believe that Goldbod belongs to Ghana. You need to make money. Bank of Ghana also belongs to Ghana. But you could have taken that decision in July, and you still would have been okay. There's a reason.
So now, Austin, can I answer you? So your question is that the reduction in the fees you believe should have been done earlier.
Yeah, because
Is that your question?
We are buying more.
Yeah, but number one. Yeah, really can't. I hope you can stay.
Yeah,
Good.
I hear you better.
So I'm saying that when you have a contract, okay, and there are terms under the contract, I mean, the contract allows you, if you look at the clause 13 I read, it said the parties every year should review the fees. Unfortunately, the fees were not reviewed in 2024. There was a huge jump in gold prices between 2023 and 2024 under the MPP. The fees remained 0.758% in total. Quantities went up from about 23 tons to 63 tons. The fees remained there. Okay, now we came into power, and bear in mind that when the quantities are increasing, then it means that the work of the buying agent is also increasing, and so is the cost of the buying agent. So it is not that simple that because you have volumes going up, then it means you are making so money, so you just go and cut down. You need to look at it well. But at the end of the day, when the Bank of Ghana said, look, we think that given the quantities going up, give us a reduction, we agreed.
Oh, okay. So now is the Bank of Ghana that suggested that because of quantities going up and also the price? Okay. Sammy, you can continue then to the final.
Yes, so because of the quantities going up, we were able to bring it further down to 0.35. And as I speak to you, it is zero. We don't take any fees because now we've ended domestic gold purchase program. The Gold Board is not an agent of the Bank of Ghana again. The Gold Board is responsible for both the buying and the selling of the gold. And all we do is to bring in foreign exchange to support this economy. So that is it. But let me go to the important issue of financing you raised. So when we talk about financing or funding for Gold Board, you're talking about number one, the revolving funds that the Gold Board deploys for gold purchases. The revolving funds that we give to our aggregator to go and buy gold. Okay. Then there is another funding which has to do with the cost of our operations. Now, under the 2025 domestic gold purchase program that the Gold Board continued under as a buying agent for the PMMC, it was Bank of Ghana's program. So Bank of Ghana was funding it because it is their program. They have appointed buying agents like Red Sapphire, like Asanko, like PMMC, which later became Gold Board. So if I'm your agent and you're the principal, you give me money to buy gold for you. That is not pre-financing of Gold Board. That is Bank of Ghana giving money to an agent to buy gold. So sometimes we misuse the terms. That is not pre-financing. So from Gold Board, or if like for 2025, PMMC, which later became Gold Board, started taking money from Bank of Ghana as a buying agent to buy gold on the 3rd of February 2025 because PMMC had ended by December. And when I went there, I needed time to go through the records audit before we resumed. So reconciliations were done. And then on 3rd of February, we started a new financial year with them. So from that 3rd of February all the way to February 2026, Bank of Ghana was not pre-financing Gold Board. Bank of Ghana was buying gold through a buying agent. That's number one. And therefore, they were providing the money to buy, and then they were also dealing with the cost of the program because it was their program. The gold was theirs. If Gold Board bought gold, Gold Board could not sell the gold. Gold Board has to go and give the gold to Bank of Ghana, and then Bank of Ghana must sell it to their counterparties, off-takers. Okay. Now, under this new regime, the Gold Board regime, where now we are in charge of the trade, because I heard people Goldbod will go and buy gold and sell the gold. This time around, because Goldbod owns the trade, the Goldbod will not bring the gold to Bank of Ghana. The gold belongs to Goldbod. So then Goldbod will sell it, and the dollars will be paid to Goldbod. And then the Goldbod will convert the dollars with the Bank of Ghana. And then Goldbod will pay the cedis. Then Bank of Ghana takes the dollars and settles. If we want to continue the trade, then we go back with the cedis. Either than that, then the cedis go back to the Bank of Ghana. It settles. We settle them. You understand? So that is also not Bank of Ghana pre-financing Goldbod. That is Bank of Ghana being an intermediary for the raising of cedis from commercial banks and by extension their customers. For the Goldbod, the money is not the property of Bank of Ghana. You must understand that. So what the Bank of Ghana is doing in that context is what we call intermediation. They are taking people's cedis and they are converting it into dollars for them without depleting the reserves. And that is why from 2016, when President Mahama was leaving office, Ghana's total gross international reserves was $4.8 billion. In 8 years, by the time the NPP was leaving office, they had increased it from $4.8 billion to $8.9 billion, a nominal increase of $4.1 billion in 8 years. But in only 1 year, President Mahama's government increased it from $8.9 billion to $13.8 billion, an increase of $4.8 billion. And yet, the Bank of Ghana intermediated FX of $10.6 billion. So where did the $10.6 billion that the IMF says Bank of Ghana gave to the market came from? It means nobody went into reserves to carry $10.6 billion and pumped into the market. Somebody was creative and innovative enough to say, I will take the cedis of FS seekers and I will convert it into dollars through this Goldbod arrangement and use the dollars for them. And the remainder, I will add it to the reserves. So as I am ensuring FS market stability, I am also building the reserves. And that is why we could give $10.6 billion to the FS market, get the CD appreciating by 41%, and yet reserves went up exponentially by 4.8 billion, 13.8 billion. You understand? So that is one form of financing for Goldbod. The Bank of Ghana from March, April, May, June was this intermediary. July, this intermediary. By the end of July, the Goldbod said, we don't want you, Bank of Ghana, to be the intermediary again, because your program, domestic gold purchase program, has ended. We are no longer your agent. We now own and control this trade. And so long as you play this intermediary role, the IMF can suspect you that the money you are giving Goldbod to buy gold, not all is coming from commercial banks, and that perhaps you are adding what we call high-powered money. We don't want to have any issues with the IMF, okay? Number two, there are many people like Alfred and my brother Bryce Simmons who will say what Goldbod is doing is a fiscal activity. So they call it quasi-fiscal activity. And that the central bank should not be involved because the central bank can take on certain risks on its books that it is not supposed to take on. So the Goldbod says, we want Bank of Ghana, stop your intermediary role. We will go and raise our monies ourselves. And there are two ways that we can raise that money. We can go to our off-takers and ask them to pay for gold in advance in dollars. When that dollars come, we will offload it to commercial banks who have accounts with us based on Bank of Ghana's FX regulation. And that is something we are discussing with the Ministry of Finance and the Bank of Ghana. Then there is another method that the Goldbod can raise financing. Financing for activity is the easiest. It's the easiest. And there is another way. And that way is what the Bank of Ghana was doing as an intermediary. We do that ourselves. Not through an auction, but through what we call a funded forward FX sale. So I go to commercial banks and I say, you need dollars. I expect to buy gold worth $600 million in the next 2 weeks. And this $600 million will be coming in the next 2 weeks or 1 week. So if you want these dollars, I want to sell it to you in advance at the Bank of Ghana reference rate for the day we are making this deal. Okay, and this is something that the Goldbod experimented on the 3rd of August. And we raised $75 million. And in a record 48 hours, we were able to convert the CD equivalent of $75 million into dollars. We didn't use the Bank of Ghana. There are some issues that have come with regards to the framework. And currently, we are working with the Bank of Ghana and the Ministry of Finance on fine-tuning it by the 19th of August of this month. And it is our expectation that once we are done, the Goldbod will stand on its own, because that is what we want. We don't want to depend on the Bank of Ghana again as an intermediary raising money for us, because of how all of you, sometimes misconstrue that thing. And it's our expectation that we will continue that program, these two methods that I've spoken on. So that is what we call Goldbod financing. The last aspect of the financing is what we now call baseline program implementation cost. Okay, so once Goldbod has now assumed a statutory mandate, Goldbod is supposed to fund the cost of its operations. And it can fund that cost by pricing in that cost and saying that my cost is 5%. So I will buy gold at 5% discount. Or I will buy it less that cost, and I will, through effective trading, generate trading gains or profits and use part of my profit to defray my cost. That is what Goldbod is expected to do. And Goldbod has the men and the women to do that. But then government comes and government says, I have a vision. And my vision is that within the next 3 years, I want to build interfering calls. I don't know. Hello?
Yes, I mean, we can hear you.
Good. So I want to build 15 reserves that can give me 15 months of import cover. And I want to call that Ghana Accelerated National Reserve Accumulation Program. I heard one of your speakers the last time say that, excuse my language, is the most stupid policy he has ever heard. That is because he doesn't really understand it. Because he said, we need money to go and build schools, and you say you're going to put it in reserves. But when we talk about foreign reserves, it is not CDs for you to go and spend. We are talking about foreign currency. You understand? And every economy, the most essential, the backstop, the most important foundation for every economy is your reserves. Because the reserves will determine FX market stability and balance of payments. Your reserves will determine your ability to meet your obligations as a government. When you owe external creditors, you can't pay them in cedis, you pay them in dollars. When you're going to pay IPPs, you pay them in dollars. Okay? So every government with a foresight must build enough reserves. Ghana traditionally has built reserves to give it traditionally 3 months of import cover. So anytime we have exogenous shocks like COVID-19, then we run out of reserves. And then you get what happened in 2022, currency depreciation of 54%. Is that what we want? Do we know when the next COVID-19 will come? So you need to plan for the future. And that is why the government says we want to do this program for the next 3 years only. And because we want to build 15 months of import cover, reserve that can give us that, we are going to use the Goldbod. And so instead of Goldbod trying to fend for itself by pricing in their cost, and we think that can affect production and FX inflows and all that, we will budget 5% of the entire value of gold Goldbod will buy as cost, which we will give to the Goldbod as expenditure. Okay, look, the last conversation I listened to, I heard Austin always repeating that mistake. And now Goldbod says, government says they are reducing losses from 14.5% to 5%. No, Austin. We are not reducing losses from 14.5% to 5%. We have brought the losses and baseline program implementation costs are not the same. And I will explain what baseline program implementation cost is and the difference. So the cost is what government is saying, me, I can only budget for 5%. And what is wrong with that? Is it when AFRES says, money that you should have used for big push, you're using for this. When we have a budget every year, AFRED, and here I want to engage you, do we budget for goods and services or not? Don't we budget for goods and services? We do. So the A4 sheet, the pen, the fuel, and what MMDAs and government agencies will use, we budget for it. Do we budget for KPS? We budget for it, right? The roads, the schools, we budget for it. So government says just like a road is a public good, just like A4 sheets, fuel, all that is a public good that I budget for and I spend taxpayers' money on. Having 15 months of reserves import cover is also a public good, and perhaps even more important than the goods and services. Because if you don't build those reserves and you get external shocks and you deplete your reserves and your currency come under pressure, and Ghanaians will now have to pay 16 cedis to get $1. The big push projects, if 1 kilometer today, when the dollar is less than 12 cedis, will cost you 1 million cedis. If the exchange rate is 16 cedis, you may spend times 2 or 50% more. So the exchange rate is so important. If the exchange rate goes up, your debt obligation, your external debt obligation balloons because the external debt is converted at the official exchange rate. And therefore, the cedis you must convert to service that debt goes up in the billions. You understand? So the government now says, for these 3 years, not in perpetuity, I am ready 5% from my budget as baseline.
Alfred, can you hear me?
No, I think we lost him again. We have to, and Perry has to stop calling him. So
I think some people are calling him, and that is the problem. But let me put this out: the Black Queens of Ghana also playing Malawi in the Women AFCON in the quarterfinal.
We can bring this program implement.
And it's 1-1 currently, 25 minutes.
Sammy, can you hear us?
Somebody should prompt Sammy that maybe he's receiving calls and it's affecting his network connectivity. But like I was saying, Ghana, Malawi, Women AFCON quarterfinal, it's 1-1. Ghana scored first in the 6th minute, and the Malawian ladies also equalized in the 11th minute. A win will help us to qualify for the FIFA Women's World Cup. Hello, Sammy. Okay, so if you've just joined us, we are having a conversation with the CEO of the Ghana Goldbod, Mr. Sammy Gyamfi. The plan was to do 2 hours with him, 1 hour, 30 minutes for the host and the co-host. But we are already going beyond time. When he's done with this, Eugene would come in. Then after Eugene asks his question, then the audience will request for the mic to share their thoughts. I don't know, Sammy, can you hear us? Can anybody prompt him that we cannot hear him? There is network connectivity challenges. Okay, Sammy. Hello, Sammy. Okay, Sammy, what you have to do is you have to drop and request for the mic again. Drop and I don't know the challenge you're facing, but please drop and request for mic again if you can hear us, Sammy.
My guess is he's probably on a phone call or something, right? Because that would also interfere with.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know, Alfred. Whilst he connects,
Austin, can you hear me? Or did we lose you too? Hello, Austin. Eugene, can you hear me?
Yeah, Alfred, we can hear you speak. Alfred, speak.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so it's interesting the explanation on the 5% and the reallocation for the budget and things like that. Because one of the things that when Sammy was speaking, one of the things that
Hello?
Sammy's back, yeah.
Yeah, good. Alfred, can you help me? Where did you lose me?
You were talking about explaining the 5% and the budgetary allocation and justifying that. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh God. I didn't know that you lost me. So where did I end on the 5%?
I think I remember you spoke about schools and the fact that we make allocations for.
Oh, then you lost me. Okay, no problem. Let me go back to it. So I'm saying that just like government budgets for public goods, be it goods and services, be it statutory payments, be it capital expenditure, government sees economic stability as a public good. So the government says for the next 3 years, it is going to implement a program called GANRAP to accumulate reserves that can provide 15 months of import cover. So that should there be exogenous shocks again like COVID-19, Ghana will not go down, the economy will not go down. And we know that once we have the exchange rate under control, inflation will be under control, cost of living will be under control, and our people, can enjoy their lives. Because inflation is one of the most, I call it the biggest thief in every economy. It takes money from the pockets of ordinary, from the pockets of citizens. And so that is why government is very passionate about it. And the government says, for the next 3 years, because I don't want Goldbod to be profit-driven, to be overly profit-driven, and, reduce the kind of inflows we expect, we will budget 5% for you. The cost is actually not 5% as we speak. I need to clarify. The program cost since March, when we took over, is 6%. But government says they can only pay 5%. And Goldbod said, thank you. We are paying the 1%. How do we pay the 1%? We use the profit we make from our trade to pay the 1%. Okay. And we've told government that by next year, we are going to reduce it to 3%. And by 2028, we have plans to make it 0%. And if you want us to discuss how we are going to do that, I'm able to explain to you how we are going to do that. Now, Alfred, this is all you need to know about Goldbod financing, But before I pause, you have been making a strong point, and I think it is tied to this issue, so let me address it. I've seen you and many argue that, look, why must there even be a cost of 5%? Goldbod must price in their cost and buy at discount so that they don't even need any cost. Okay. Do you know that as we speak today, the Goldbod has been able to discount the price of gold in Ghana by more than 10%? Alfred, do you know that?
Through the exchange rate, right?
Exactly. And that is the biggest headache. Because, Alfred, there are two types of markets, the bank markets and the banking market and the non-bank market. When you talk about FX, those who operate in the non-bank markets don't know anything called interbank rates. There is no landlord in Ghana who charges for rent for their apartment at East Legon or Cantonment, who converts their rent from dollars into cedis using interbank rates. Since we started buying gold in Ghana, in calculating the price of gold in Ghana cedis, no miner knows what is called interbank rate. They don't even see it. They can't even access it.